Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Open Source Workplace Daily. Good morning, Mike. How are
Good
you?
morning, Steve. Good morning. I'm well.
Glad to
I
hear.
am smiling for the camera, my friend.
Smiling for the camera. It's not a grimace smile, is it? Is it, Mike?
That's
I don't
that.
think
That's
so.
the eek face. You see in the
Okay, okay.
emojis, the
Emojis.
grimace.
Grimace.
Some days are like that. I
Yeah.
don't know. We were just talking before going live for 30 seconds because that's all the time I give you. I pop in here straight out of the shower,
Yeah.
folks.
Yeah.
But I'm ready. I'm here. 8 a.m. We are on time
Love
today.
it. We are
Excited to
on
say.
time. We are on time.
But
It's good. It's good.
it's July. It's literally the middle of the summer.
July
It's July
22nd. Can you believe it?
22nd.
Can you believe
A lot
it?
of people on vacation,
Yeah.
um, but they may come across this later if this is something you're watching in the cooler weather, cooler temperatures. Then welcome. I'd be curious to know how things are different in the future.
Yeah,
I wish
no,
I could go into
absolutely.
the future and see what's going to happen, but
Hey, and as we as we
don't know.
cover all the topics today, that's going to be something that we all wish we could do, you know.
Yeah,
So yeah, Mike, as you said, like welcome everybody to OSW Daily. This is a live stream we do where we try to talk about topics that are front of mind for everyone today, what everyone's sort of talking about, articles and content that's published, and we try then to sort of give our take on it, right, and sort of help cultivate a talk or a chat around those topics. And it's all related to work, workplace productivity, and employee experience. So this is a live stream, it's interactive. We do send out the information, the articles ahead of time. And if you'd like to get those, there's a link down below in the description. Click on that, drop us your email, and we will send that to you each and every morning that we go live. So it allows you to participate, and that also means you don't have to listen to us. So there's
I'm going to
benefits.
say, even if you
There's
don't
many
listen to
benefits to
us,
signing up, you know?
read the articles. They are very good. There are much smarter people out
Yeah,
there doing some
absolutely.
really wonderful work these days.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So what we're going to talk about today, Mike. Top thing here is WeWork, but I want to talk about co-working in general and some of the things and trends that we're seeing. So I've put a couple of articles in here, and then Reimagine Corporate Occupiers. This is a JLL article, which was interesting on LinkedIn that we'll touch on. This is then we're going to talk about as people think about transitioning to a new role, as people think about their career, you know, what do we, what's our mindset believe we need to be doing, but actually in reality, what needs to happen? And we're going to talk about that. And then Millennial takeover. And this is a really interesting piece because it's not necessarily talking about the millennial workforce. It's actually what happens when the millennials get into leadership. How does that then
Hmm.
change how organizations will run, the mindsets of the organization, the mindsets of recruiting, how people work? So really, really fascinating. And we're gonna nitpick through a few things. And what we'll do is we'll take a couple of topics, we'll take a couple of points of that, and then we'll have a conversation around that, Mike. So
Sounds good.
sounds like
Sounds fair.
fun. Yeah. So the first thing was it's two articles that was published in the Real Deal, all about co-working. And the
Right.
one picks up on WeWork, per WeWork. They seem to be getting beat up every which way, and the headlines sort of people, clickbait, Mike, as we like to call it.
They are the poster child
They are,
for the
they are,
mainstream media too. Yeah.
they are, and yeah, the headline here is quite damning in a sense. You look at a WeWork availability rate, more than 20%. They've selected New York City. New York City is obviously where WeWork has the biggest presence. But actually, New York City was also one of the last locations in the U.S. to open. So I kind of feel bad that they're picking up this headline, but then it's triggering. So I want to focus on the headline, but I want to take a look at the WeWork and the co-working segment in general. And if we apply
Yeah.
these percentages, then we can assume that there is a vacancy, a large vacancy, an increasing growing vacancy in co-working locations around the world. And
Hmm.
then we didn't really get to talk about this article yesterday, but hotel rooms and how Industrious, a co-working provider, has teamed up with a hotel provider. And actually, the hotels are now starting to offer office space, instead of
Yep.
offering beds and bedrooms, they're now offering office space. And Mike, I sort of started thinking about this, and I was looking at it and I was going through, what do co working locations offer? Right? Why are they attractive? Why do people go there? And also, what are the prohibiting factors, or what are the issues that occupants in co-working locations actually have? So let's take the first. Why do people go to co-working locations?
Well, that's the
Community.
thing, and my perspective, yeah, go ahead.
No, 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 no.
Community.
Go ahead.
That
No,
was
you
number
jumped.
one.
You jumped in.
Community amenities and
Right.
really cool workplace experiences.
Right,
You know,
right,
that was what it was
right.
all about. And
Absolutely.
now, in the pandemic times, this article that you offered up, and I was fascinated by it. I linked through to a prior article that was, you know, kind of contrary to this point, that WeWork CEO was saying they're in great shape and they're on track to be profitable next year in 2021.
Yeah.
And I say, how can these two things be true? It's a paradox. Well, maybe not. If you dig under the surface, you know, on the surface, you've got this high level of availability, 20% unoccupied space. But at the same time, WeWork has been dramatically decreasing their costs and cutting back on so many things, selling off software companies and cutting other expenses. All those amenities that we talked about that were part of that model in the beginning are kind of going away. And now they're promoting the strength of the ability to offer up clean, separate spaces, you know, safe spaces for work.
Right.
So that's their new model. And in which case, that seems to be real estate to me. That's more Regis, you know, rent a private office in a shared space, whereas it was so much different. The whole flash of WeWork and many co-working spaces was it was a different thing. Now you're very deep into this world and you have a lot of friends in this world. I'd be curious to know what you think the definition of co-working is and if it has fundamentally changed in these pandemic times.
I think the use of co-working is going to be changed. I think how people use co-working will change, and that's sort of kind of where I really wanted to. That's where I got really interested in these two pieces of content, because again, we talk about the positives of co-working, we talk about the negatives. It's, you know, technology, it's noise transfer between offices, within offices, and sort of the structure of it, right? Small, compact. Then you take about, okay, so hotels start to get into this field and offering this as a product. And when we think of hotels, and you take all the benefits of a co-working, hotels already deliver that, right? They have all this. You go into a hotel that's got a lounge in the sense of open, spacious, comfortable variety of seating. It's all there naturally. A bedroom, you know, you take a hotel room, you know, it's probably a higher soundproofing than what a traditional co-working office is. It has a bathroom, so you don't have to think about the fear factor of sharing bathrooms with other people whenever you go through this. The amenities within that hotel, you can get room service, you can be protected, you can still eat. There's a television access there, so if you want to put presentations on, there's many ways you can do this. The rooms are typically bigger than what you would see in a traditional co-working or the Regis office that you mentioned. But also the other amenities that a lot of these hotels offer, they may have access to outdoor space. The downside I see to them, though, is connectivity. Usually, you know, we've both experienced in hotels, bandwidth is usually the issue, right? That's the one thing where I think hotels really have to step up if they wish to get into this. Now, do I think there's a long-term play here for hotels? Maybe. I just think that they will generate more revenue or more income by having people sleep over, because there's a higher price on that as there is to a day rate people utilize in a room. But that doesn't mean they can't augment one with the other during this time. So I found it really interesting just to think about those paradoxes, as you said, you know. I'm not opposed to any of it. I think it's great adaptability and really rethinking and reimagining how we run our businesses is something we all need to do, and that the fact that these co-working companies and as well as hotels are rethinking ways they can, you know, be, you know, valuable to this current market environment is fantastic. The last question on this topic of co-working I'd asked you, Steve, being a real estate decision maker, is the flexibility piece is really the biggest value for you, right? It's not so much they have better coffee and kombucha on tap. It was always about flexibility of leases and short-term project, being able to handle your team and a certain percentage of your overall portfolio there was a benefit of having co-working spaces available to your team, right? It absolutely was. The other thing that that I certainly look at and value is, you know, if you have a small team, be it 5-6 people, and that 5, 6 people work in a corporate office. So they have their own dedicated space, and only that company's employees work there. Well, there's a certain atmosphere, there's a culture within that, right? But often they're seen as quite stale. There's no real excitement. There's investment, but not really large investment. And usually the small office has to do a lot of the things themselves, order supplies, maintain certain things, all those sort of things. Now, if you're able then to provide a community to those folks within a larger community, so if you went to a co-working locations and you got dedicated space where those folks could operate in that dedicated space, but if they wanted to, they could then naturally, integrate with a larger community. They're all there to serve, to work, and provide them with a lot of alternative types of places to sit. That was a huge upside for me as I sort of evaluated the cost over. Now, the other big play that was always put forward was cost savings. In my experience, actually there isn't cost savings in my experience, because by the time you don't, it's not a one for one. So what I would buy a real estate for a person to sit in a corporate office, the square footage that I need to buy to provide somebody with that same feeling space as you get in a co-working location, I have to buy more desks because they're sold by desk and so on and so forth. So whenever you do all those sort of things, there's not really a cost play here. It's more about integrating into a larger community, and that was the huge benefit that I would sort of evaluate as for that. But I think in the short term, I think hotels are a big play here. I really do. I think the fact that they can provide a real safe, secure environment that provides multiple places for people to work, the ability for you to go have your own restroom, to have your ability to add room service, television is there, the amenities is there, usually large windows, outdoor space. Sometimes people have a terrace or whatever it is to sort of sit there. That's a huge play right now. And I was sort of, you think about yourself, I think about myself. If I was going to go and pick a place to work, and if I could go and choose something like that, that's interesting to me.
Well, especially here in the near term where we don't know what our longer term needs are going to be, let's find ways to take care of the needs of our employees and give them a comfortable environment in which to operate. So I'm open to all these ideas, and the flexibility that hotels or co-working spaces will provide is always going to be valuable. So we'll see how it plays out. If WeWork's profitable at the end of 2021, I think that would be fantastic news for the industry.
Yeah.
We'll see.
So here we go then. So we talked about co-work, we talked about all that works, and then this is an article about reimagining corporate occupiers. And I find this a really interesting article. It covered a lot, Mike, in a short space. And
Dr. Marie.
And she's great. She's really, really good.
I can't pronounce her last name.
No, and that's why I didn't even try, Mike.
It's French.
I didn't even try. So Dr. Marie, we both apologize.
Amazing thought leader, though. Thought leader.
Yeah, and there was I think there's something like, it's like 10 links to different reports in this short article. And I could have went down many, many different ways to look at this. But I really wanted to focus on the first point that we have up here. This is where Dr. Marie sort of thought many years ago that actually a lot of space going forward in corporate offices would be dedicated to collaboration, or set aside for collaboration. Now, that space could be anything in a sense of a cafe, it could be conference rooms, it could be quiet, open spaces, it could be whatever it is, outdoor spaces, little things like that. And you think about how we have talked over the last few months on what we think the workplace is going to be in the future, how we think people are going to go back to the office, how people are going to operate. If people are able to do that heads down work at home, why do you then want to go into the office? And I think it's a really interesting thing. But the main take from the article that sort of got my mind going is, okay, so I get that we have that vision, but then how do you apply that vision for your organization? How do you apply that vision and getting that collaboration right? Because collaboration comes in many forms. So how do you do that for your company, for the various locations, for each business? And it's sort of what I would just share here is kind of like what I'm looking at right now, Mike, as I think about this, because whether Dr. Marie is right or wrong, it's absolutely the direction that we're going, where, most organizations are going to pull away from, large assigned seating areas and then more into collaboration. So what do we need to do? We need to read, we need to listen, we need to challenge our mindsets, right? Even if we don't agree with Dr. Marie, it's like, okay, so why is those questions, or why is that thought being there? How do we learn more about that? How do we learn more about our businesses, where our businesses are going, what technologies are going to be going, what are the tasks and functions that those businesses are going to be doing going forward? Every location, what are the functions that actually take place there? Will they still be relevant in time to come? Use this time period, because we both know whatever we think is going to be in 6, 12, 18, 24 months, we will not be right. But let's do all we can right now to gather as much information, to be educating ourselves, to be staying on top of these things, so that we do feel that we are able to react and provide the right type of workplace that our organizations need.
Yeah. Again, big takeaway from the article is what you said. It's a deep dive into strategy. JLL's got some really great thoughts on this. Yeah. The reimagining piece is what I'll focus on. Is that idea of rethinking, reimagining workplace. This is an opportunity. Never miss a crisis or never waste a crisis to take advantage of it. So as workplace leaders, as corporate executives are thinking about this current situation, JLL and Dr. Marie, they're just laying out frameworks for thought and strategy, and then diving into their ideas. And I think that you struck on the point that it doesn't apply to everyone the same way, and no one size fits all for any organization or all organizations. We all have our different needs and different situations. But the principle being that we need to take this opportunity, this pandemic time, to rethink strategy. And then JLL is just being very thoughtful about laying out these phases. We had the lockdown, then we have the re-entry phase, and we have this rethinking, reimagining phase. And just to focus in on that point you mentioned, the shift is something I've heard about from other guests. In fact, my guest this week on the podcast, who was a guest on my live stream a couple weeks ago, Lori Rowlandson of BGIS, another amazing thought leader, shared the similar idea of the shift in the 80-20 rule from what used to be 20% collaboration space, 80% individual workspace in our offices is now being inverted and upside down. And now you've got probably a future that looks more like 80% open collaborative space and 20% head down workspace, because why do we need individual workspace? We can do that from home, right? So this 80% of collaboration space, we do our ideation and our creativity and our innovation and our celebration. We need to have that piece for culture, gathering as a community of workplace colleagues, and have organizations have places to celebrate, times of gathering and big events. The old birthday party on The Office. Michael Scott used to throw one every week. So I think that never goes away. I hope it doesn't.
No, absolutely, Mike. Absolutely. Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. But I think, and obviously there's questions that Dr. Marie lays out there that we all should be focused on and asking ourselves. So yeah, it's really interesting to sort of think through. I hesitate to start moving forward with those questions, because there's so many unknowns at this time, and I find it really hard to get to those questions whenever there's like the current status. We don't know a foundational place to sort of move from, but
I share a quote with you, Steve. I shared on my live stream last week, and I'll mess it up, but it's a Seth Godin quote where he says, "Don't wait for perfect, just make progress."
Right.
Something like that. So we're all in that same boat. We all have kind of frozen in time for several months, and I think in this last month or so we're rethinking that. We're saying, all right, this is our new reality. What can I be doing proactively to move my career forward, move my organization forward, and plan for the workplace of the future? The next normal, as is quoted in this article. I like that.
Yeah, it is. So that's new normal, the next normal. We've heard the new normal, better tomorrow, our new better is one we've also heard as well. So a lot of people coming.
That sounds like a Walt Disney World ride. It's a better tomorrow. Brilliant.
But you did touch on what is the future? What is going to be our roles and responsibility? What is our role going to be going forward? And nice segue into sort of what we're going to talk about next. And this is challenging people's beliefs, perceptions as to what really matters when we're looking for new positions, new roles, new opportunities. And I just thought I wanted to share this because, I mean, traditionally, I've always looked at my resume to be the reason why we get a position, right? That's typically why people actually do employ you. You send in your resume and they like the look of your resume, and you go in the interview and they kind of like the look of you, and they don't feel you're going to upset them too much, and you kind of like what they look like and everything that they say. But I just find this really interesting as we think about the amount of people who are out of roles, out of positions today, looking for new opportunities. How should they perceive that? And I just find this really, really beneficial to sort of the resume actually in this new world that VJ was sort of speaking about. And I love it. He's a data storyteller. I love that. I just love that as a title. To be a data storyteller would be great. But
that is a cool title.
But in essence, if you take the resume is a really, really small element of it. And your network is a huge element of where your next position or next opening is. So I think what we have to try and do is, yes, we've got past experiences, we've got references that we can leverage. But actually, how do we grow our network? How do we maintain and ensure the network that we're growing is useful to us, that we're participating in that, and we're growing and we're creating those connections, one-on-one connections, so that if people hear about opportunities that bring it to us. I don't know about you, Mike, but I frequently receive emails about, do you know somebody who can do this? Do you know somebody who can do that? Is there somebody you can reference for this, right? And that's like people trying to reach out to people that they trust, who they respect, and going, who do you trust and respect that I can speak to? Because people realize that in a resume and also in an interview, actually sometimes you don't quite see the real person. And therefore, if you come with a recommendation of somebody who people get respected, then it's a great way to sort of approach things.
Yeah, I like this article too, and I think you and I are in a little bit of a strange position, but it's a principle that applies to everyone in a sense in this new digital age, is that our resume is what we are online. Right. The resume is not a piece of paper now with a list of all that you've ever done, where you went to school, or what you have as far as credentials and so forth. It's your experience and your presence and the value you bring into your network, not just your network, but the value you've poured into your network. So whether or not you folks have a YouTube live stream, or you do podcasts like I do and Steve does videos, that's the idea, is that it's a matter of building a resume, quote unquote, in your network, providing value in some way. Maybe it's writing blogs, maybe it's writing articles, maybe it's just commenting on other people's work. And there's so much that takes place now collaboratively online through these portals, social media and otherwise, that we all have the opportunity. LinkedIn is a fantastic place. In fact, two, I think, of the 4 articles we've shared today are from LinkedIn directly.
Yep.
And we just don't even think about that. Don't even bat an eye. It's not Forbes magazine necessarily anymore, although they still put out some great content and so forth. But it's about the quality of helping your network. So I see many people, certainly in these times, are going to need that help, that boost. I know that LinkedIn does some things practically to help people manage the next step in their career. But it's been a while for me, Steve, and I've never had a written piece of paper resume since probably when I came out of college. It's dating me, but I worked for a company for 15 years and then did my own thing for a period of time. And then when iOffice hired me, it was not based on some piece of paper that they got through a job portal, but it was, they saw me doing my podcast. We knew each other through networking and through our interactions at IFMA and Cornet. And all of a sudden, it just became a natural fit. So I'd love to be able to help people recreate that experience now in these times when you are looking for work and trying to reinvent yourself and adapt to these crazy times we live in. But, it's a challenge. While we don't have those conferences to go to anymore, we do have virtual interactions, and it just takes a little bit more effort to make it as valuable as some of those other older school methods once were.
It does, and it's funny, as you were talking there, I was thinking through my positions. I was like, yeah, you're so right. I mean, my first position I got in because it was a 2-week assignment, and
Yeah.
it was a freelancing gig. 11 years
Kind of a
later,
tryout.
I
Yeah.
left the company. It's just, but this is how it works.
That's crazy. It's crazy.
You do
It
what you
is.
can.
It is.
You do what you can to get into the position, into the company, to get yourself exposed, because then people really see who you are. And that's one way to leverage networks. And ironically, the one position led to another position with a different company, but it's all about relationships and it's about recommendations and referrals. So it is critical to build, and as we spoke about before, I think people are open to connecting these days.
Yeah.
And I think as we go through in this next article, I think, we think about millennials and those folks who are entering the workforce, who are sort of trying to develop their careers. They're probably the ones that are who really could benefit the most from actually building networks, peer networks, networks within people who have different mindsets and different industries, just to expand the mind, expand the connections, and
Sure.
And benefit all in total. So, yeah.
Yeah, this next article, go ahead and pop it up, because I'm wondering, is it a Forbes magazine article? I just kind
It's
of said,
entrepreneur.
we don't need Forbes.
I did
Oh, okay.
giggle whenever you said Forbes.
It's
You don't say
entrepreneur.
it is.
Another mainline publication, which is great. But
Yeah.
the Millennial Takeover, and I got to keep remembering. We need to remember that the oldest of the millennials are now, I think, 40 years old or close to 40. So
Yeah.
it's this age group. They're well established in their career in many cases, but the things they've brought these last 10, 15, 20 years to our workplaces and the work industry are kind of mapped out here. And nothing surprised me. I guess the big surprise of this article was to say, hey, by 2025, which is just 5 years from now, these are the leaders of organizations. These are no longer the newbies, as you said, starting their career. These are the people making the decisions, and how will that now impact the rest of us and the global economy and the corporate cultures around the world, now that folks with these mindsets are in charge.
Yeah, no, 100%, Mike. That's exactly where my head went. And then I was thinking through, okay, so we think about this disruption today. We think about how we're working and the technology that we're using. And, do we really want to go back to the office, or don't we want to go back to the office? And obviously the article discusses the mindset of millennials. And then I was thinking, actually, the next generation, if you think about what college kids are going through today with this mobile learning, with kids at school, and this is what they're being taught today, how will they react whenever they come into the workplace? Because they're being trained and learning today remotely. So will their mindset be that actually I want to work remotely? Or will their mindset be, no, I tried that learning remotely, I didn't like it, I didn't like the social interactions, and I want to be more in the office? Or will it be, no, I really love that actually, because I could be anywhere and I could get through my work in half the time. I could get through all my schoolwork in 4 hours rather than being there for the 6 hours, and I like that model, and I want to continue with that. So then how will that shift the mindset? And you've got this coming together where you've got the millennials who are going to be the leaders, who have they want flexibility, but they also want to believe in an organization. They want the values of the organization. They want to share in those values. They want to hear, and they want to also witness that is really what the organization is like. And then you've got this thing. I think it's going to be a huge shift. I find it really fascinating.
I do too, and I don't dismiss any of it out of hand. Being an old guy now, an old Gen Xer who has my ways of what's considered to be the normal way, and then this new fancy technology thing. I've never been that way. I've always been open-minded, and I've always been one to embrace technology and new ways of working, certainly. But boy, when you see this next level of not just capability, but adaptability, the ability to learn new tools, new apps, what have you, multitask. The old guy in me says you can't concentrate on your work if you're multitasking, but I think the evidence, the research has proven that their brains are wired differently. We're talking about Gen Z now, and the young folks coming into the workplace today, and the ones that you mentioned are in college and high school. The digital natives, they've just always had this as part of their lives. They're wired and they're prepared better than you and I are, and certainly the older generations, to adapt and to accommodate in these crazy times. And one of those items in the entrepreneur article was about being used to disruption.
Right.
This generation's been through a lot of amazing historic moments in our society that have just, I kind of prepared them to manage whatever comes ahead. So I am optimistic about the future. I think it's something that I need to be, and we all need to be open to and embrace some of those ideas. But I think we can also teach them things that they maybe didn't learn naturally through the purely digital interactions, things that are valuable to human interaction, the human experience, the socialization, the culture, the things that happen in a workplace in person, and just in relationships in general in person, that maybe are not as common to that younger generation who are so used to interacting digitally. There's still value there, and human beings are essential, and human behavior doesn't change, and the core of who we are as people doesn't change generation to generation. So that's why today, Steve, if you want to continue this conversation on my Workplace Innovator Interactive live stream at noon, I've got the first time I've had two doctors, two PhDs on the show, and one of them is a doctor in anthropology. So the question we're asking today is, what can anthropology teach us about facility management and the workplace? So it's attracted a lot of attention online, just putting out that headline, and we'll see where the conversation goes today. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah, no, that sounds good, man. That sounds good. We'll definitely look forward to hearing about that tomorrow. If I don't get a chance to join you later today, but well done, you, man. Well done. And look, thank you everyone for listening. We've actually went on for quite a bit today, Mike.
We did.
So that was a fast conversation. So thank you. Anyone who's watching, please do like, subscribe, comment, share your thoughts, and we look forward to chatting with you again tomorrow. All right, Mike. Have a great day.
Steve. Thanks.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers.